Evening, everyone. Welcome to this episode of All Things REI. We're really excited tonight to bring you this special guest we have here. You may or may not know him. He's a local Windsorite, as usual, because this is a podcast where we like to, Jeremy and I really love to showcase local investors here and people that really are doing things in this city. So, Jeremy, by the way, you are on mute, so just make sure you're not on there. Yeah, perfect. Just so you can jump in. But we have Mr. Ford City himself, Michael Difazio, and he's the woodworking entrepreneur / investor. Like he's everywhere. And so if you don't know him, you definitely will this evening. And feel free to drop questions and comments as we go along too and participate. But Michael, thanks for having us having this evening with us. And Jeremy, I think I speak for you as well, saying we really appreciate you hopping on tonight and spending time with everyone.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here, dude. I did not know this was gonna be live, so I'm extra.
Yeah, it puts a little pressure, but not really. We normally actually get a lot more views after the fact too. So,
Cool.
so this will be live and then also posted on YouTube and on and on our Facebook page for those that are watching now or want to watch it later. But I guess, Michael, let's get down and dirty. Who are you and what are you about? So, kind of how did you start your entrepreneur journey? Because I think people want to kind of know the person more so, and I think that would be a great place to start.
So my name is Michael Difazio. I've been in Windsor my entire life. I actually grew up in Ford City.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I moved out of Ford City at 22 to my nono's to my nono's garage in the West End. But I actually started my business kind of on accident and not even because I was trying to be an entrepreneur. I needed to make money so I was able to afford going on tour with my band. I played in a punk band. I did vocals and guitar in a punk band.
What
We
was
were
the
always
punk band name?
the Rally Estate.
The Rally
The
Estate.
Rally
All right, we're gonna have
Estate.
to dig that up.
Yeah, yeah. It's not even on Spotify. It's only on Bandcamp if you want to check that out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
a
Very
couple
niche.
albums up there. But yeah, I started building things out of garbage that I used to find on the side of the road. I started primarily finding old wooden windows at the side of the road, and I would smash the glass out, and I would put mirror or chalkboard or corkboard, picture frames. I would use those old wooden frames as a way to just create money, and I would sell those things at art shows, and I would actually go door to door, knocking on like coffee shops and being like, "Hey, I've got this thing. Do you want to buy it?" And I started making tiny bits of money just so I was able to afford going on tour, being in a punk band, touring. We were touring the entire East Coast of the States. Like we were. I think the longest tour we were on was 3 weeks straight,
Wow.
18 shows in 21 days. You know, like you don't make money on the road. So I had to bring money. I was just back then I was just trying to have a 20 bucks a day, man, just to make sure I could
20
eat
bucks a
some
day living out the
food.
van.
Yeah, living in a van, dude, showering like once every 3 days or something. So much fun, dude. I regret nothing. It was the best times of my life, man. But
So
yeah,
how old were you?
I
20,
was
20 22, 24? Well, how long?
I think it was like 22, maybe 21 to 23 probably. That was probably like the height of it all, man.
Okay.
It was the best. Like that was what started. So I used to build stuff so I could afford to be in a band. And on that last tour down in Florida, we were in St. Petersburg, Florida. We were crossing this
Oh, beautiful.
gigantic bridge down there.
Mm.
I remember thinking like, I can't wait to go home to go make stuff. It's like
Oh,
I,
wow.
I'm busting my butt at home so I can go on tour. And the second I'm on tour, I'm like, I can't wait to go back to build some stuff in my nono's garage, right? So I did my first couple art shows. I made a few $1,000s. I thought I was the man. I ended up going just kind of becoming an entrepreneur at that time, thinking that I made it.
Hmm.
Ended up selling myself into a hole. Had to get my first full-time job, my first real job, I say. I only had that real job for 11 and a half months, just to kind of pay off a bunch of debt and get me set up to make the jump into actually the shop that we're in now on Douillard. That was a big jump for me.
Mm.
Uh, I found an old guy. This is before, like, when I first started, like, I was making furniture, right? And I was trying to find a shop that I could grow into because my nonno's garage, it wasn't insulated, it wasn't heated, it wasn't, it was a tiny garage. There were squirrels living in the roof. Like, I had to get out. I knew I wanted to kind of go down the direction of building custom furniture and being an entrepreneur and making stuff with my hands and having fun and just doing cool stuff. So I would look for a place to rent every day after work. I would leave the factory and I would drive around and I'd just try and find a spot. And I eventually ended up renting a spot on Douillard, and there was nothing happening on Douillard. Like, I can't tell you how dead that entire street was, man. There was no lights on any of the buildings at
Oh
night.
wow.
There was some of the street lights were knocked out, like they weren't even all on.
Really?
No, no cars parked on the street at night. There was, what I think they call them ladies of the night these days, but there was like hundreds of them. I remember the
Yeah.
first night, my first night in my new shop in Ford City. There was no lights in the front of the building, and we had I had one construction floodlight, three or four folding camping chairs, and we just sat in the front in my front window and just drank a case of beer, like me and three other of my friends. And dude, I'm talking like every 3 minutes there was a different girl walking by.
Oh
I
my
couldn't
goodness.
believe it.
That's back when there was a bunch more strip clubs on there too, probably. What year was
Yeah,
this?
this is 2014, so this
Okay.
is crazy to me to say that was 11 years ago, bro. That's nuts.
Holy
Wow.
cow.
So yeah, I started building custom furniture, and once I was able to go into my shop on Douillard, it's when things really started to grow. I was renting at the time, and I lived in that building for 2 years without heat, which is gnarly because I worked in there and lived in there, so I couldn't
Oh
escape
wow.
heat.
Oh my goodness. So you just you just had your mattress steer off to the side, and or you probably built yourself a bed or a bunk bed or something with all your handy skills.
Uh, well, I mean, back then, dude, you could have gave me a paper bag, and I was like the happiest kid in town. I had a shop, bro. I didn't care about anything else. I had a shop. I had a place to make stuff.
So
That's all.
did you own this shop or did you rent it at the beginning?
So I'll go into this full story. So I rented this place from an old guy who has been in the neighborhood for like 50 years back then, right?
Mm.
So he knew the old way of Ford City and Douillard. So he rented this spot for me, and it was a mess. There was no insulation. The back half of the building was unfinished. There was no lights in the stairway. There was no heat in the entire building. There was all sorts of stuff. The windows were plywooded up. They were all boarded up. And I was like, I'll rent this entire building from you, and keep in mind, half of the upstairs, which is two-bedroom apartments upstairs. So the
Mhm.
one half was completely gutted, like block and studs, no electrical panel, nothing. And I was like, I'll rent this whole thing. I'll fix this unit up in the back, and I keep all the rent once I finish it. This is me not knowing anything. I'm going to renovate this entire space, and I'm going to collect the rent, and I'm going to live in the front unit, and I'm going to rent the entire the main floor as my shop. And there was a laundry list of things that he had to complete before I had to move in.
Oh wow.
I'm not talking like I'm not talking like you need to make sure there's pot lights in the ceiling. I'm talking like I didn't have a front door in my apartment. I didn't have a front door. There
So
was no lights in the stairway, no heat.
so how did you find this guy in the first place? You said you were like driving up and down the streets and stuff, or like,
I
or you
would,
heard friend of a friend?
yeah, I was driving up and down the streets, but I was starting to talk to people in the neighborhood, like the
Gotcha.
BIA back then, because there was
Okay.
we were doing like these guys were meeting with me at like 10 o'clock at a McDonald's downtown to try and make sure that I had the lease prepared. So I moved into this unit, into this building, and none of that stuff got done for 2 years. And then I tried to buy the building from him 4 times.
This
And I was supposed to buy the building from him for 74, 680, 642, I think it was.
And
It
this
was
is a commercial building with two-bedroom units?
yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
even that. Yeah, wow. So,
nuts. It would have
Yeah.
been nuts. So I had to deal with him. We sat down, wrote it out. It was at the lawyers, but nothing was signed. And then all of a sudden there's a for sale sign on my building. And I'm like, bro, like I have an offer. We were already talking about this.
Yeah.
So I hire a real estate agent, and then I get my first, we put a proper offer in at that same 74,000, whatever, nothing, crickets. And then we put in two more offers at 80,000, crickets. So the agents that were listing the property weren't even showing the current landlord my deal. which I'm pretty sure is illegal.
That's yeah. I think that is Jeremy, right? That's you have
Yes,
to
it
show
is.
everything.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. You have
Yeah.
to, yeah.
So I was like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna look around the rest of the city to see what else I can find. And, I got about 100 grand. I'm like 23 years old at the time. I'm like, I got
Wow.
100 grand to purchase power.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and I'm driving around the city, and like everything I'm looking at is like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900,000 bucks, and I'm like, this is insane.
Hmm.
So after my third offer, I put in an offer because they listed it at 99. I put an offer in at 105, and I got it. And I was on top of the moon, bro. So I bought that first property at 105 at 24 years old. And that was my first real estate deal that I ever did. I was able to
Wow.
live and work in the same building, which was a huge cheat code
You're
for
essentially
honestly.
house hacking. Yeah.
I'm house hacking with a commercial building, right? Like that's to be honest, one of the things I'm coaching my guys on now. Like if you are starting a business, get rid of one of your rents. Either work where you live or live where you work. Get rid of it. Cut your expenses back. And not only that, it allows like 1000% focus because you are surrounded by work all the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you get
So
distracted or bored, you have something to do.
right. So it's crazy. So the building, like I mean, I'm working in here like the full time, right? I've been telling this story a little bit the last little bit here, and when I bought that building, like I said, I lived in it for 2 years without heat. I honestly felt like I was an indestructible dude. You could have threw me off the building. I would have got back up and went back in the shop and just kept working. Like nothing could slow me down, bro. I was like on a mission to just make the coolest stuff in the entire world. And because the building was unfinished, the landlord actually got caught doing a bunch of renos without permits. The building was red taped, so I had to buy a red taped building. So I had to start pulling permits. And in the pull it permitting process, I had to open the windows that were on the side of the building. But because zoning has changed and whatnot, the land next door, I needed to purchase the land next door, or I had to block in all my windows on the side of the building.
Oh,
So I ended up having to buy the lot too.
you're forced to.
But dude, I bought the lot next door for 12 grand.
Wow.
And I doubled, this is the best part. I doubled the previous owner's purchase price.
So they bought for six.
They bought it for 6, I bought it for 12, and
That's
like
wild.
it's crazy. And then the market started to go nuts. Doing what it did after, 2014, 2015. But yeah, that's kind of my story, man. That's how I got into my shop, and that's how I got started. But I got started through trying to grow and plant my business's feet in the ground, just to doing something, right? Like trying to grow something, working towards something. I ended up buying my first deal.
Mm. I like how you kind of fell into it. Jeremy, looks like you're to say something.
No, it's interesting because like you talk about how you're from the area, which is really cool. And I think we're going to talk about a little bit in the next little bit there about Ford City and what you think about it. What's obviously transpired since you renting that unit out with your buddies and watching a bunch of Women of the Night go by. I want to hear more about the transition since there because obviously, as you know, I'm recently invested now into Ford City.
Yes.
Funny enough about the lot, going back, 2017, I actually almost bought a piece of land. I want to say in like 2017, 2018 for around 12.5, 12.6. And I think that lot was sold to someone in my office who bought it and then resold it for like 60 grand a year later or something like that, which was crazy.
That's so nuts, bro. That's sick.
Crazy appreciation.
Right.
And 60 now, you're like, wow, it's still cheap. But obviously it was most of these lots are unserviced and I think we're gonna have a good conversation because we do one. So Mike, we do actually one on Friday. That's gonna be our statistics. So for the first Friday, I think Friday of the month, we do a Windsor. It's called a re-up where we talk about updated numbers for Windsor, Essex County,
Okay.
and then we talk a little bit about news. And funny enough, Windsor's um the what do you call that? development fees are supposedly going into like six
150% or
figures.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, something silly. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting back to the story here, um, you've obviously talked about. I heard you mention coaching, and I guess the next segment would be Michael Difazio, the entrepreneur. So you talked about a brief history about who you are and what got you into the woodworking, but now about the basically woodworking in general. Like, what would be like your most rewarding projects? What have you done with that so far? Before we talk about maybe your coaching there.
I mean, like, dude, there's some big ones. There's just some like big tables that I've done that are like big rewarding pieces, I guess. Some of them, like they're big, ambitious tables, but a lot of them don't really produce huge pay because it's like I'm just gonna add a little extra this, a little extra that. Next thing you know, you soak up your entire margin and you're making next to nothing.
Hmm.
But you're making something that's incredible. And I do believe that if you do things over and beyond, like beyond what the expectations are for long enough, you will eventually be worth a lot more than if you just did what was necessary, like in
Right.
the form of building a brand and like actually making something um, memorable, right? Like I honestly feel like there's something more that comes with it more than just a payday. Like just going over every now and then, making sure that the clients are extra appreciative, going over, make sure that the project is a little bit over the expectation, knocking it out of the park. I honestly think that there's something huge to say about what comes with the business after that. Like you prop yourself up and you're in a different room now
Hmm. I can
in
see
business.
that. You get word of mouth as well, and then probably repeat customers too. People
Well,
Yeah.
keep.
your stuff would be considered, I guess, art in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like before I actually met you and before we became friends, I mean, I've heard about you for the past 3 to 4 years prior to us having our first conversation, and you're always highly regarded in the woodworking space. I know a few people when I was first looking at my getting one of my properties there, I was told to talk to you about furniture, just cool stuff. Actually, a few shops I went to mentioned you, which was interesting. And then, sure enough, I got to meet you as a person and basically now a friend, which was really cool.
That's
So,
cool, man.
yeah, well, basically, as a small business owner in Windsor, because Windsor's obviously you started at a interesting time,
Yeah.
especially in Ford City at an interesting time too.
Mhm.
What challenges, I guess, have you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I mean, I think for me specifically, man, coming from a spot where I had zero business background, zero bookkeeping background, like I didn't know anything about business at all. I
Hmm.
just started acting on, right? Like I'm gonna make this and sell this for this much money. And when I talk about selling myself into a hole, back then I would just sell, 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 not knowing that I wasn't charging enough or whatever. And I eventually ended up digging myself into a hole and I had to dig myself out of it. That's actually why I had to get that full-time job in the first place. But I mean, there's an endless amount of challenges that you're gonna run into, man. Like you just gotta kind of you gotta act through them. You gotta learn through it. You almost like you almost just need to start doing the thing and then find the challenge first and then find a way to work around it or overcome it or beat it, you know, just to continue the journey because it's never going to get easier. And to be honest, I don't want it to get easier, man. I just want to get better.
Hmm.
If I keep getting better, the harder challenges can keep coming my way and I will just crush every single one of them. Like, bring it on. Let's go. I got it. I'll take care of it, man.
I love the mentality. You're basically saying, yeah, even if I fail, I'll fail forward, and you learn from it, and you build back up again. And every time you're reforged, and you figure a little different, and you can make it better. So
That's the coolest thing that I ever really heard, man, was that like that winners have failed more than failures do.
hmm,
Because the only difference between the two is the winner just kept going. And if you just keep going, you never actually lose. So you're never really a failure, even if you are falling on your face or tripping over your own feet. You're never really losing. You lose the second you decide to quit.
They
That's
said
it.
that I think about that about Thomas. I think it's Thomas Edison. They said that he
the
like
light
failed
bulb.
into greatness. Yeah, he was basically I was totally failed entrepreneur. Like 30, 40 times over. And all it took is that one. I think he even probably stole it from what people were saying that he stole the light bulb idea, but it took that one thing. And then now it's like one of the greatest things like we can't live without, right?
Right. It's
So
yeah, it's cool, man.
When you said you're
going
learning,
on, oh,
oh,
go
I
ahead.
was just curious when you're learning all this stuff and making these mistakes. Did you have any mentors in your corner to kind of guide you a little bit? Or I know definitely at the start you said you didn't, but as you did you seek any out, or did most of it just you were bootstrapping?
I mean, like so I worked with my uncle. I worked with my uncle constantly, man. Like I worked with my uncle. We talked almost every day, 2, 3 hours a day. Just like he helped me understand my numbers. He put my first budget together. He created the Excel sheets. Like, dude, I was a kid. I was a punk ass kid in a punk band, learning how to make stuff in a window in a wood shop. You know, like I did nothing, dude. And he showed me everything, every problem that came up. It was like I called him first, and like years and years and years of that have went by, and like he has literally created a foundation in me now that strip everything back. It's like I fall to another level because every time you learn something new, you're constantly going up to like another level up. But sometimes you're going to trip down the stairs, but your floor, when you keep raising your floor, you're eventually just going to keep being higher and higher. And he created such a great foundation in my life that was 50 steps up that staircase that I can only fall down to level 50. I can't fall down past that because that foundation is so strong. So I mean, we don't work together as much as we did back in the day, for whatever reason. Just, I mean, but I've had coaches ever since, man. Like I'm obsessed with learning. I'm obsessed with trying to get better. Like this is what I do. Like what's the craziest thing about all that is to me is the fact that I don't even know what the next level of me looks like. And same with you guys. Like
Hmm.
you don't really know what the
Nope.
next level of you guys are. Like if you would know, you'd already be there. But you first have to be exposed to it before you can achieve it. So like by just acting and doing what you guys are doing right now, you are literally gonna just continue forging and pushing forward. Like that is the coolest thing to me, man. When you're focused on like growing and personal development and whatnot, like good luck stopping me, man. It's like a freight train because it's the same thing. When the new problem arises, you will overcome it.
You're building the
Absolutely.
momentum. No, that's
Momentum.
And
yeah.
And this is why we do these because pretty much like if we can learn one or two different things, it's a constant learning um, process for us. I'm as much as I think I know a lot when it comes to like flipping, I don't know the multifamily side. I don't know what happened 10 years ago. I don't know the student rental side. There's a lot of different games, all these
Yeah.
different investors and play. And then you need to know too what makes a person tick, right? Which is huge, especially when in the negotiation. If you're going to go play in the same rooms as some of these other people, you kind of want to have I want to know more about you, right? So I think these are a great way for us to kind of get out, expose yourself, but you also mentioned too, you had coaches, and I think you mentioned you're starting to coach yourself now, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I've always had coaches, man. Like honestly, it's a cheat code. Like I'd rather learn from these other guys than just try and figure it out on my own. But with the coaching thing, something interesting happened with me this year, and like I had like this big realization that I there was a certain point in the wood shop running a team of up to 7 guys at one point. We had 7 guys running in the shop,
Right on.
and I have been coaching those guys constantly. Like those were my mentees, I guess you could say. Those were the people that I enjoyed coaching, and you know, I push, and try and help people grow the same way I do by full force ahead. Like, but not everybody works that way. You're talking about knowing how people tick. Not everybody ticks the same way that I do, and thank God, to be honest. But I realized this year that I enjoyed coaching more than I enjoyed the furniture that was being built. So like my heart wasn't in the furniture anymore. It was in the people I was working with. And when the people I was working with didn't want to grow past the place that they were at, like they hit like some imaginary wall that I know they can blow past, it like crushed my heart because I was like, guys, I got so much more to give you. What are you doing? So I kind of took a step back and was like, fine, then I'm going to coach guys that are trying to get to the top. So now I'm on a mission to find those guys. I'm on a mission. Like what I'm actually working on now, I'm not even going to talk about it too much right now, but what I'm
Okay.
working on now is going to be sick. And I hope within the next, to be honest, with the next probably 5 years of me growing this, this is going to be this is going to be an entire different approach to how people view custom furniture makers, not so much the product, but the people.
The
So
people
I got
behind
something
it.
really cool that
Wow.
I'm cooking.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Well, stay tuned
amazing.
for
So
that. Sorry,
Yeah,
Jeremy.
I'm starting to see you're using social media a lot too now. I'm catching your stuff on Instagram a lot now. You're popping up quite a bit.
Hmm.
it's an attention game, man. Like it's the difference of what is I'm doing now from Instagram is when I was building my channel for the sole fact of selling custom furniture, right? So I have my furniture shop's Instagram. I was working as hard as I could to appear in front of our local community. Our local community was the biggest supporter of our business. 98% of our work only got shipped to Essex County over the last, 11 or 14 years now, right? Like we weren't shipping to London. We didn't need to. We were staying so busy just in our little pocket, Essex County. So that was the attention I was aiming for. So I didn't need to go viral. I didn't need to go to become big. I needed to get the attention of our local people. So I really leaned in and I fully believe in that. The difference of what I'm trying to do now is I'm the only woodworker that was doing the things that we were doing on my scale until past Chatham. Like,
Wow.
right? So I need to now take my little pocket and I need to like expand it so I can start getting attention from the people that are outside of our area because there is nobody in our area that is doing the custom furniture thing at the scale that I was at. So I can't spend my time advertising to them. But that will be changing soon because one of my guys from my shop, one of my main guys is coming back and he is going to be going full swing there. And we're going to be building up something a little different with him. So the furniture thing will be kicking again. Honestly, we had our first meeting today, so stay tuned for that.
I'm
Okay.
excited to,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, we're definitely excited. We're definitely excited for that. And I like that when your passion was kind of a little bit waning on kind of woodworking, and you saw that it was more for the coaching that you switched it. You didn't even wait. You just kind of went all in. Like I like that mentality.
Bro,
Just
if I if I can get into bro, if like I can't even explain to you the mental exhaustion, the emotional exhaustion, the physical exhaustion from making that decision.
hmm,
I never thought it, bro. That was me ripping my identity out of the ground and being like, I'm not gonna be the furniture guy anymore. I'm gonna be the online guru coach, like or whatever it was, right? That I can't even explain to you. That took months and it took a toll on me, dude. Like I am at least I mean, you guys are getting me at a good point because something flipped in me like 3 or 4 days ago. And even Lisa's like, what happened? She's like, I didn't realize how off you were until I saw until I remembered who you were before that. Like this year was really tough, man. I'll be honest. This was one of the toughest years of my life. Um, and just because I think it might have been an ego thing. It might have been like a purpose thing, right? Because I think so much of my life was tied to my purpose, my team that I was running every day. And when you took those away from me and I had like just me,
hmm.
it was like, what I didn't know. I didn't know where ground zero was anymore. I was all over the place. So it was a I can't even explain to you like the turmoil that I went through this year, but the plan has changed and I think it needed to change. I think everything that happened needed to happen in the specific order, even though I can't explain any of it. It needed to happen in the way that it did because the model that we're working on creating in the shop now, I think is going to produce 10 times more profit and return and importance on the actual builder, not so much Michael Difazio's, team of boys in the shop. It's going to be like these individual builders are going to have their hands on things in a different sense. And I don't think I would have made that model switch if I didn't have to completely put everything away for a minute and just be like, fuck, or get rid of all this. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I know we're live.
you're fine.
You
You're
know,
fine.
like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So like get rid of it all. But like I think if I didn't kind of put it back, take my foot off the gas entirely and focus on the coaching thing, I actually don't think I would have come to the conclusion that I need to rebuild the shop in another way, because what I'm working on, the way that I'm building my shop now with Tristan, is going to be the foundation of the new company, which is called Maker's Legacy, for the future. And you guys actually might appreciate this. The new company that I'm working on is called Maker's Legacy. Maker is somebody that makes things, right? It's not a woodworker, like you, another word for it's craftsman or whatever, but maker
Mhm.
is what I am, right? I make things. And there was a couple realizations I had over this year. And, you know, one of the realizations was my wood shop owes me not a dollar. You know, I started in that wood shop with, you know, maybe $2,000 worth of tools. There's maybe $100,000 worth of tools in that shop right now, but that $100,000 over the last 11 years has bought me millions of dollars worth of real estate that I still currently own, that now pays me enough every month to pay for our entire house. Like
Yeah.
we're living off the rental income now. So like that shop owes me nothing. So it's Maker's Legacy, because regardless of what I do with these hands right now, that legacy I'm going to be able to pass down. And that
It's your
legacy,
passion. It's now your passion project.
well, yeah, like now the shop is becoming the passion project, because the real estate, the way that that's being built and structured, it's like that's the legacy I get to leave
Hmm.
for my kid.
Because giving that freedom, yeah.
Yeah. So like, so, but I want to show up these other people, right? Like these other woodshop guys, like what's possible with the profit. If you do this part right, you will be able to buy real estate that will pay you every month. There's that book, The Wealthy Barber. You ever heard that book?
Of
Yep,
course, absolutely.
it's a good one.
Right?
Our
Like
listeners should read it too.
that's awesome, right? So it's like the book that like the barber buys a bunch of real estate. Like he lives off the real estate. It's the same sort of thing. I'm working with my hands. These hands can only produce so much.
Hmm.
But when you're buying the right things, that produces the cash flow month over month over month over month, year over year over year, the appreciation goes up, the buildings get paid down. Like this just it inflates. And it's like if you do this right along enough, you're gonna have something so much bigger than you can ever produce with your hands. And it's something that I need to show other builders what that's like, what it means, because it's not about just work until you die. Because some of these woodworkers, man, they don't have the business sense. They're just like, oh, I make things. Fantastic builders, incredible builders, so much skill, right? But they're just like, I'm gonna build stuff. I'll pass down my tools. I'm like, your tools are worth nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways,
No, no, I
I,
hear what you're saying because, yeah, like you said earlier, if you're not really exposed to certain things or that mindset or what you can do, how are they supposed to get to that level in the first place? So that's where you come in and you say, hey guys, there's a whole nother door that you can get that you can pass through.
well,
So
I
honest,
think, yeah, I like the idea of like actually this is leading into Michael Difazio, the investor, which I think will be a great segment. But honestly, you're correct. There's so many people that just they stat they might even just save their money, but they're not investing it. And then when it comes to, the end of their career, they go, wait a second, like what do I do now? I got this money, but I don't have the freedoms. They never built the kind of the empire, I would say, right? So that while they still have young children or while they have a family or just before it gets to that point, they can enjoy the fruits of their labor. And that's, I guess, that's what it is, the fruits of labor, right?
yeah. That and like, dude, it's that is what you just explained is so scary to me, knowing the rest of the climate that we live in, right? Like our dollar's going down. The government, who even knows what's going on specifically today? Like,
yeah,
like
there is no
who
government right now.
knows?
It's prorogued
Yeah, yeah, we're
or
just
about to
going
be.
broke. We're probably still better off.
Yeah.
But like it's such an interesting thing to think about, because I find it so important. Like what is the game plan? Like what are you doing? Like you can't do this forever.
No.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
something has to change.
Yeah, eventually you'll get older, your hands won't work as much, or you just don't have time to build this furniture. So yeah, exactly. Like you need something else to kind of give you that cash flow or security.
I have clients as a realtor and they get to a certain age and they have to sell the house that they're in because they go, I just retired. I'm now on fixed income and I either have to retire to work another job in retirement to maintain my lifestyle, or I got to downsize. And we call them right sizing now, but like there's
Yeah.
other opportunities. And the worst thing about like we're such a great country, but like I mean, Michael, you got thrown into probably real estate investing basically by luck, but I mean, I also never came from anywhere like my parents didn't understand real estate. They still don't understand real estate investing. And for a lot of people, um, they're not going to know unless they come across a podcast, a YouTube video, or just get into it, someone else that knows kind of what they're doing. I got in by luck as a realtor. If it wasn't for me getting into real estate at this to sell houses to families, I would have never gone into investing. I didn't even know the world existed. It's a
Yeah.
whole new world.
And you know what, man? Like I've had so many conversations with my family, my brothers, my sister. Like I'm like, guys, we should be working together.
I love that.
Yes.
Family. Yep.
Right. Like, dude, like look at the richest people in the world. Like they're operating in a not I don't know if this is actually true, but look at some of the wealthiest people you know, even in Windsor. Like
Right.
you're talking old money. There's a lot of old money in Windsor. Where does the old money come from? Like
Keeping it
it's
within the family
business.
for generations.
It's
Yeah.
been built,
Hmm.
right? It's ah, I just don't want to see people I love go through pain when I'm like, you just need to reallocate these dollars this way or take it
Oh,
out of
yeah.
the bank and put it here. Like do something else with it. I
So
don't know.
let's lead into this now. So basically, you bought your first building, you're 22, 20, 23, right?
24.
24 now, right? You bought, yeah, because you rented for a bit. You bought your first building, then you bought the lot next, right? For
Yeah.
$12,000.
Yeah. So I bought the building in 2014. I bought the lot in
So
2015.
now you have 3 units in Ford City plus a vacant piece of lot.
Yeah.
And this is 2014, 15.
Now I'm in 2015. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
what was the next step there? Because now you have 3 units. Obviously, you're living for free. You got your shop down there. You have a tenant probably paying the mortgage as well. You have a vacant piece of land. Have you done anything with that land? I think it hasn't been developed on it.
No, it's just sitting there.
Do you still own it?
One day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 So,
Well,
so I thought, so this is where things get very interesting because being an
let's hear it.
entrepreneur, you're high risk to the bank. The banks don't really want to invest in you. You're a high risk, crazy person forever wanting to control your own money.
How dare
Being
you?
an entrepreneur, right? How dare you?
Yeah.
So 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 I got my building, I got vacant land. Vacant land automatically merged with the building. It's a merger because it's
Mhm.
vacant land, bought under the same name. Then the house next door is a single family home, 3 bedroom home. By the way, I've lived in all three of those units in my building. I've lived in the upstairs front apartment. Then I moved into the shop and I lived in an office area so I can rent out my only livable unit. Moved back into that unit. Then I finished renovating that unit, moved down the street to my buddy's place who lived down the street, literally 5, 6, 7 houses down the street. I moved there so I could finish the back apartment in my building. So my shop, I built that back apartment. Have you ever been there, Jeremy? I don't think.
No, I haven't. This is a
With the
commercial
rooftop
shop.
patio?
No.
Rooftop patio. Oh, baby.
Dude. So yeah, the back of the building has a rooftop patio. That unit is kick ass. I built that unit for me to live there for a long time. I moved from down the street into this unit, finally finished it. So sick. Me and my buddy Brody lived in there. We had a rooftop patio. We had the parking spots in the back. We had crazy parties back there. So much fun. And then I bought the house next door. So I had my shop building, the vacant land, and my house. And that house was the most creative deal I did at the time. I love creative deals. Obviously, I'm a creative person, so getting really in the nitty gritty of the creative deals, like this is the most fun part where I get to talk about this. These two deals was awesome. So
Yeah, let's hear.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
hear
hear
it.
it. Lay it on us.
so vendor take back loans. I'm sure you guys know all about those. Vendor take back loan, the seller financing. Who knows? People call it different things, but I call it a vendor take back loan. So I met the guy whose house was next to my vacant land because his tree fell over one day.
Hmm.
And I called the city. I'm like, bro, I parked my truck underneath that tree and the tree branch just fell over. Like, fix your trees. So I met him that day. And then he came over and he's like, hey, if you ever have any problems with the house anymore, you don't have to call a city, just call me. Okay, perfect. Now I have the guy who lives next door's phone number. I'm just going to ask if I can just buy your house. How much for the house? So as I'm talking to the tenants that live there, I find out that he owns another house down the street, which is the old bad girl house, which is next to your place, Jeremy. So my uncle and I, we were working on a plan to eventually expand. The reason why I've been buying in a spot is because I was planning on building another 14 units in that vacant land where that house was, knocking down the house and building a 14 unit building. Well, sorry, 12 units, 14,000 square feet or something like that. I don't remember, whatever. It's been a while since I've talked.
Either way, large.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge.
So I contact the guy and I'm like, hey man, I know you have this house for sale. I want to buy it. Do you want to meet up and talk about it? So I met this guy. His name was Zoltan. Sweetest old man. I don't remember what country he came from. He has super strong accent, but I'm very good at listen. I'm very good at understanding broken English. So I met with this guy like 15 times maybe at a Tim Hortons. Napkin deals, writing napkin deals over coffee. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife. All these things. So I was trying to buy them both. I wanted to buy both these houses for 90 grand. Back and forth. He had a real estate agent that was in
combined.
No, 90 grand each.
Each. Okay. Imagine combined. Oh, that'd been
that would be nuts combined. That I can talk about Ford City prices before I got there all day long. I know all about that. It's insane. But so he had a real estate agent in his ear that was talking to him like, I can sell this house for more than 150. I can sell it for more than 100. So ended up coming up to a deal for $115,000. He was going to sell both of them to me for $115,000 each. And I had $0. And I was like, I'm not going to qualify for a loan because of where I'm at right now. And I need to buy these houses. So I was like, I will buy them for 115. You hold the mortgage for 2 years on both houses. And we worked out, I think it was 10% interest. And I think it was $30,000 down each house. So this is where it gets awesome. So I'm like, I only want the one house. I don't care to keep the other one. So I'm like, I went to my buddy Brody. I'm like, Brody, put the down payment on. I'm coming to you with the deal. You come up with the money. Here's the full package. You have the down payment. I got the deal. We bought that house, vendor take back loan on that the house down the street next to the old bad girl hair. We flipped it essentially. We just cleaned it up, power washed it, cleaned up the garbage, and essentially evicted the tenants. For the new owner, because the owner told me he was going to use it for himself. And they moved out. We sold the house for like 170 something, and we split the profit. So Brody got half the profit. I got the other half the profit. I think that was in 45 days we flipped it. And then for the other house, again, I had $0. I loaned 30,000 from my uncle, and I said, I'll pay you interest on this. So it was 100% financed on the other house. Short-term loan with my uncle. The profit from the flip paid off my uncle. I got the house $0 in, and I ended up moving into that house. But just getting into these super creative, we're like, that piece moves over here before you can move this piece, and then that thing moves over here before you can move that. It's like those remember those big square things you used to have at McDonald's where you have to like make the picture?
Oh, the puzzle, yeah.
The puzzle, and you gotta move this piece before you can move that one. That's like what some of these real estate deals feel like to me, when you gotta do this, and then you gotta do this, and then you can move that up there, and you can move the piece over. Like it's these crazy moving parts where, for zero, I bought both those houses with no money. Then I made enough money on the first flip to pay off the lender on the house that I actually wanted to keep. So I got the house for no dollars down, and then I refinanced my shop and then and then paid out the house, the mortgage, the vendor take back mortgage with that.
Beautiful.
Wow.
And it's pretty sick, man. On Douillard, I've done 5 vendor take back deals, and they're all in the same block.
The odds of that's
Yeah,
actually
didn't
crazy
so
because vendor takebacks are like the golden goose, and
I know,
and
bro.
to get that and also in the same block, that's you must have a way with words or something too. There must be that extra component or
Dude,
persistence even.
I think honestly, what I have to actually say about that, I lived there, I worked there, I invested there, I hung out there at night. Like, if you owned anything on Douillard, you knew my face.
Hmm.
And me being me, I was like, hey, when you want to sell that, let me know. Here's my number. Here's my little handwritten note. Hey, I'm the guy with the wood shop down the street. Here's my number. I am interested in buying this building. Tell me what the price is. Like, I've done that many, many times. And that the last right and go. I can go over vendor take. I can tell you guys all about the vendor take back deals because I love them. They're fun. Not the last one I did because the last one I did is also super freaking epic. Those two buildings on the corner, well, it's 8 unit now, and
oh well,
the
yeah.
commercial. That one's a little more involved, but during COVID, we were able to get that relief loan, that relief grant. I don't know if you guys remember that.
For
We got
for
like
like the small business
the
or
small business grant.
okay.
I didn't need to use it at all, but I qualified for it. And I'm like, you're going to give me an interest-free loan for how many years? Okay, done. Literally went to that guy, that guy, I don't remember, 1037. It was 1037 Douillard. And he literally walked up to me. He's like, literally on a piece of paper, $50,000 down, $250,000 purchase price, 7.6% interest, closing in 30 days. And I said, where do I sign it? So he's like, sign this. So I signed the paper. I went to my lawyer. He went to his. And then I got that COVID loan, and that $50,000 just fell into my account. And I'm like, well, here it is. Thanks, Trudeau.
That's actually
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
So, and then I gutted that building. Sorry, I gutted that building and then flipped it for 397, something like that.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and that was in less than a year too. And then with those funds, I bought two more buildings on the street.
So
Huh.
with all your involvement in the city or like Ford City, you eventually joined the BIA, and now you kind of does that give you some control over what's going on? Like how does a BIA work for people that might not understand, and also me because I'm just curious as well because I know you
Yeah.
have to definitely be an owner and be part of a business owner and stuff as well. But now what's like the vision I guess going forwards for Ford City, and then where do you see definitely it's already transformed quite a bit, but I can see you have big thoughts and plans, and I don't know, Jeremy's told me a little bit too. You guys are bullish on the area, so I think more people need to
Yeah.
understand what Ford City is about.
Right. So I actually resigned from the BIA this year.
Oh, okay, I
That
misunderstood. Okay.
I put 10 years in. I was part of the BIA for 10 years. So the BIA is the Business Improvement Association. You have to be either a business owner or a landowner in the BIA district, which is not all of Ford City. It's kind of like the hub, like the commercial hub.
Mm.
And it's like-minded business owners and building owners working towards the common goal of improving the area, right? Business Improvement Association. This is what our goal is. We throw events. We make sure the planter boxes are here for the summer. We make sure there's a guy watering the flowers during the summer, right? Like there's all these little things that, it's city funded, it's government funded. But so when I first moved there, I joined the first year I moved to the neighborhood, and they were pretty much like, if you're a business owner, we need anybody to join this BIA because we don't have a BIA. There's nobody here. There was nobody in Ford City, so they were like, you have to join it. So I joined it, and we had some meetings and we had some fun and whatever. And the first 2 years I was there was this thing called the Arts and Heritage Festival. And the Arts and Heritage Festival was this rinky-dink festival, man. It was so lame. And you know what? I mean, it was super grassroots, but it was a festival by the neighborhood for the neighborhood. It was quiet. It was chilling. It was during the summer, like it was during the day. There was little dinky cars for the kids to drive, and it was fun, whatever. But I was like, whatever, man. This is kind of lame. To be honest, man, when I first moved to Douillard, nobody bugged us. Nobody did anything to us. Like me, when I say us, I mean my friends and I. We would just rage on the street We would set the ramps up on the road. We would be skating. We would be skating like a box and a couple kickers on the street. We'd be playing frisbee on the street. We'd have beer cans everywhere. We'd be doing burnouts on the road. All the cars would be parked on the sidewalk, and then like nobody bugged us. Nobody said anything.
It was just that dead, or just
yeah. We had bands playing in the shop. I'd have my speakers pulled out of the building. We would be listening to music till like 4 in the morning. The cops would drive by. They would wave at us, and I was like, "This is not this. Something's wrong.
It's not normal." Yeah,
it should be illegal. What is happening? So I was used to that kind of partying on the street, and it was after the second year we were kind of doing a recap of the Arts and Heritage Festival, and they're like, "Mike, what would you like to see for our festival here in the neighborhood?" And I'm like, "Well, if you're asking me, I'm going to give you legitimately what I think." I'm like, "The festival sucks." And they're like, and I'm like, "Well," they're like, "Well, what would you like to see?" So I'm like, "Well, what I do on the weekends is we do this. We have our lowered cars. We do burnouts on the street. We have punk bands playing. We're drinking beer all night. We have live skateboarding. We're doing graffiti on the back of my building because that's what I grew up doing. I grew up doing graffiti and stuff. Like, I just grew up this way." And they were like, "That sounds awesome. Let's do that." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? You're gonna take my weekend and you're gonna make it like a legitimate festival?" So drop. That was when Dropped on Douillard was born. Jeremy and I hung out this year.
Oh my God, it was my first one ever, and I went in with no basically expectations whatsoever. And I actually called up a good friend of mine, Andrew McLeod, who's also Instagram famous at this point now on
Yeah, for sure.
for being a realtor. But he came over, both of us our first time ever, and we were blown away. Mike, I think you can talk about the first one and how it got to where it was today.
Yeah, so the dude, Dropped on Douillard is nuts. If you guys haven't been to Dropped on Douillard now, you guys are missing the most intense festival that honestly I've had people say from like there is nothing like it in Ontario, and there's people in Tourism Ontario that have said that about us. So like they're always at the festivals. They say there is nothing like Dropped on Douillard. It is raw. We have punk bands playing. We got the car shows. We got beer everywhere now. Like there's specific vendors. But we started that festival with $5,000, $5,000,
It doesn't
and
get you security these days.
no, it gets you nothing. But that was our entire budget for like the entire year, because the BIA is funded by your property tax, and if the
Yep.
property tax is so low because everything's so broken,
right. You
there's
have
no
nothing. Yeah, at that point.
nothing. So we had to. It was super grassroots. Everything was volunteer, and we brought the city together to have this super. And like honestly, man, the things that we did the first couple Dropped on Douillard will never be allowed again. Like we did shopping cart races one year. Terrible.
No way.
Yeah, that was it. Was we were. It
Any
was
accidents or what? Or...
it was there was half pipes set up on the road, skateboards flying. Like a couple years ago, there was we had this BMX crew come in, and they set up like 2 half pipes right in the middle of the road, and there was so many people walking that like these guys were doing backflips. Like I could touch them in the air, like they were that close to me. And if they bailed, that bike was going into the crowd, and like people got hurt. But it was an awesome festival, so it was worth it. But it was intense, and we just worked with what we had, man. We had nothing. And I think sometimes when you're forced to make something great with nothing, you create this incredible edge that no one's going to be able to touch with a budget. You have a big budget, you sometimes miss the small, minute things that really make you unique. And I think that's what Ford City had to offer, man, because our plan worked. That Dropped on Douillard was the plan behind it was to have a festival by the neighborhood for the rest of the city, where the Arts and Heritage Festival was a neighborhood festival by the neighborhood for the neighborhood. Now it was a festival by the neighborhood for the whole city to enjoy, and it brings an entire different crowd now. And like, dude, there was probably 5,000 people there.
I would say so, yeah.
It was intense, and it's all day long. We have the coolest vendors. We have a waiting list now for vendors. Like we say no to a lot of people that want to be involved
I
in it.
noticed something too, because we have I guess you would say a kind of unfortunately, city-made lackluster downtown. I noticed quite a few downtown companies that happen to be there. I noticed, for example, there's the Craft Heads tent, if I'm not
Yeah.
Yeah,
mistaken.
good point.
Uh, they were there. Actually, Tom, I ran into you without even messaging you. We ran into each other. That was funny.
Yeah.
Um, what was it? We had Maiden Lane. So
Yeah.
Maiden Lane was there, that's a pretty trendy spot right now, especially downtown. They're in a good spot. And they were actually in one of your spots, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you pulled some
Yeah, and
players.
then
Yeah.
I've been trying to get those guys from downtown for years, man. They're still working on it. For last I heard, but we
it's
have
a pop-up shop. Yeah.
yeah. But our art site has been an art studio downtown Windsor for 40 years, and they're moving to
Oh,
Ford City now.
Wow. That's
Like
huge
they're
actually to have more people kind of coming in and something that established too to kind of be planted right in Ford City.
oh yeah, dude.
That's
I always said it would take me 10 years to get to where I wanted to be. And to be honest with you, my portfolio in that area has definitely paid off.
mhm.
But, you know, I still feel like we're making our way to the starting line because everything is moving towards the smaller neighborhoods. Our downtown's been destroyed and it's pathetic. To be honest, I think it's pathetic. We have terrible leaders that can't do anything, and it's pathetic watching people like me,
Mhm.
people like in our little broken BIA in this little neglected part of the town starting to pull the businesses down there. Really? Your downtown hurts that much that you're coming to our sick little part of the town where we like to have a little bit of crazy fun down here, like, but it worked. Like, dude, it worked. Like we are pulling
hmm.
downtown into our neighborhoods. The businesses that have been established for years are now migrating to places like Ford City and Walkerville, and like
Yeah.
Yep.
They're all kind of coming out.
they have no
And
choice.
I think there's a lot of opportunity too because a few people have always asked me, as you know, when you're a Windsorite, you get the stigma of the past, uh, Ford City and Douillard, and obviously a lot of people talked about the old it wasn't Silvers, was place? I guess Silvers is on Seminole, but it was Club Teasers. So
Yeah,
Teasers.
yeah,
Rest
yeah,
in
which
peace.
is now gone. Yeah, now gone. Um, but I mean, yeah, it's still not clean. Like the sections that were the main strip of Ford City there, I would say is like the technically starts at what the 200 block and technically goes to about Richmond, which is just about the 11 or 1200 block.
I,
Ends at
I
the
I
Cookie
would
Bar.
say I would say it's the 1,000 block.
Yeah.
Period.
So we'll call it right to the Richmond there, which will end probably be the Cookie Bar, right? So there's
Yeah,
obviously
cookie. It's
there.
essentially yeah.
That's I think a great anchor too. I'm happy that they bought their spot. So that's actually a downtown import too, right?
Yeah, yeah, they're right from downtown. To
Yeah.
be honest, man, we've over the last 5 years we've had a little bit of a um, roadblock. Someone
Hmm.
come in, bought 12, 13 buildings, and now they're slowly being bought off, which is good. And you know what the thing is, like a lot of the BIA was super upset when these buildings got locked up. I'm going to say the word locked up again
Yeah.
because they were locked up before by the old owners that let them get to the state that they're in. And then we had this glimpse of hope that this new guy was going to come in and scoop up everything.
And fix them up.
And then that went south.
Hmm.
It's still progress in my mind, right? Like whether he did something with them or not, it's still progress in my mind because he took them out. He took the properties out of the negligent landlords that had them in the first place. So at some point, something is going to give. Buildings will start coming through. And when things start coming through, there's going to open up the door for new opportunities and other people to move in. I personally don't want the whole neighborhood to be owned by landlords. Like it would be great to have a lot more owner occupied buildings in the neighborhood because it gives a little bit of like it's like an owner love, right? Like they give a little bit of extra love when it's their
Take a bit
building
more
when they,
pride in what they do. Yeah.
you know, and so
It's
I think it's coming. I think it's going to be, to be honest with you, I think it's this year. I mean, you and I are already kind of talking about this.
I happen to have one of those under contract.
Yeah, so this is great. This is what I'm talking about. Oh,
Possibly
yeah.
trying to get a nine more. I think there's about nine of them left. So some of them are starting to go. We won't talk too much about because that's a whole other. I think there's some legal issues going on with that. I don't know. There's a lot of hearsay going on. I have my own. I've been told my own story, and it's not my place to do anything more. I don't think it's our place to discuss that. But there's probably going to be about nine, I would say, give or take a bit, coming back to the market, which will for people listening in, this is a great opportunity because the biggest thing for me talking about Ford City, and that's why I really wanted to have you on here, because not only are you just like a great example of a local, pretty much blue collar Windsor, their typical Windsor guy, right? Born
Absolutely.
and raised here, great story of an upbringing, but big time investor. And people, I don't think people know that you're an investor. I guess because you have quite a, I mean, you're talking, you have the building right beside Sawyer's Barbecue, the old Grand Katina building is like right next door to that. That's what I think 11 unit, 8 units or 11 units or
It
something.
was it was it was 10. It's now 8. I brought
It's,
it down so I could make bigger
and then
spaces.
you own
But
the
yeah,
building besides that. Yeah, you own quite a
yeah.
few
Six-
buildings, and
16. I got 16 units in Ford City.
which is huge.
That's
And
solid.
that's
Yeah.
in but that's all within like what
Like
a stone's
like
throw away. You can literally be across one street and you're at the next all 11,
it's literally within a
all 16.
500-meter block. Like, dude, I'm within 500 meters, or not five, like 500 feet. You can
Hmm.
walk from my furthest one to my closest one. Like,
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
perfect to be able to self-manage it all. It's since this is all so
But
close.
I like what you mentioned there too, because of you introduced me right off the bat to the Shane, which is the I guess the one of the heads of the BIA there. And
Caribbean, yeah.
he's bought in, right? And to have a good people that are bought into the neighborhood, it'll change eventually because if you look at Wyandotte right now, I mean, we talk about Wyandotte, the good part of Walkerville there, obviously. Um, it's our new downtown as well. You got some of the best restaurants. Like Vito did a great job bringing obviously his stuff. He's got killed there.
Yeah.
He basically, I think, a share in Ortona and Naughty V's. And then you have Wineology, which is a big reason for people going into the Wyandotte area right now. I think that's one of
Mhm.
the biggest pulls. And then you're bringing in, they brought in the goat, they brought in Loose Goose from downtown. The Twisted Apron expanded, try to get into there on a weekend,
Yeah.
impossible.
It's
Um,
yeah.
it's a great area, right? And then okay, well, what's next? Well, you're gonna go to Erie Street. Well, good luck getting onto Erie Street. You got some of the best restaurants across Windsor. Same thing as well with Ottawa Street. I mean, Ottawa's funding their vision as well. These are streets that are being slowly bought up, but we are just 3 to 4 streets away from that. And
We're the
there's a
last
lot of
one.
Yeah, you
and
really
I
are
mean,
because it's just subdivisions after that.
and what
There,
people
was
fail to
that the family?
realize
Yeah.
is that we're not going towards downtown where some of the issues are currently right now. We're going towards East Windsor, which is a really great family oriented neighborhood. So the minute, like, for example, once all that gets bought up and gets pushed over towards us, because people want to be close to good family neighborhoods, home ownership, right? And that's what East Windsor pretty much stands for, right? And you're going into the Tecumseh after that. So you're only going to get into better and better neighborhoods. Well, we're that last strip of the fun, trendy-ish, hipster
The
vibe and
walkable
feel.
neighborhood. It's the
Yes,
last walkable neighborhood in the city.
that is affordable that can be worked
Wow.
with too as well. There's a lot of opportunity. I've been pushing a lot of my clients into single family duplexes in the neighborhood. There's a lot of love coming in, which is great, and and I'm sure that you're happy to see it. And a lot of this is because of once again, I know you don't want all the credit, but you know, a big vision, like you said, is because the drop on Douillard, the vision that you've pushed, and the reason why when I first got the call about this property, I called you first because I was like, I
Yeah.
need to get some questions answered, and there's
Yeah. The
no one
boots
I
on the
know,
ground.
yeah, that has more property, that's more um in line with Ford City than you.
Bro, I'm telling you that commercial unit will be rented before you're done it. Like
I've already had 6 people reach out to me. So, and
I
I think
telling you,
two
I
or three
can't
that were for you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. I love it. I get called constantly about that. Where can I move into Ford City? Where I'm like,
Mhm.
there's nowhere to move yet. So like,
Yet, yes, yet.
then we
And
need
then
to.
hopefully there's within I'm hoping within by this by the end of this year we'll have a potentially another storefront, three more units to bring to market, as well as a potential development. Obviously, the development will be placed once we figure out the cost of doing business. Because if it's gonna be six figures to build, this is gonna be pointless. Because I mean, that's ridiculous. Especially the only way to build right now is to do multifamily. And
Mhm.
if you're trying to ask me for $120,000 per unit, like, come on.
Yeah, I would love to know more about that because, dude, like I remember when I got the reason my vacant land is still vacant is because of that. That price quote I got was outrageous. I was like,
Mhm.
these numbers will never work, and now the
No,
prices are higher. So I got to
Well,
figure out another.
it's
yeah. We'll have to see if there's any of the government incentives and stuff when PR
So
kits
there
and
is actually,
yeah.
funny enough, Ford City has a really good CIP, which will help you with some basically. I think you could probably get away with maybe upwards of potentially 10 years of taxes freezes, which is good. So
That'd be
you won't
huge.
have to worry
Yeah.
about going up in taxes. But as of right now, I mean, I know a good client of mine, a good friend of mine that looked into a bit more. However, we're outside of the potentially waived area for the development charges. So I thought originally we were waived, but it turns out we're not. And the only thing that they could probably do for us would be to help us out with some the CIP grants and then possibly freeze taxes for quite a few years.
Depending on what that is, there's the CIP for the residential and there's a CIP for the commercial. So double check with that. I would actually talk to Shane, and if you need to talk to somebody on the neighborhood committee, like the neighborhood watch, I can also help you out with someone like that.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about that once everything gets finalized. But I think this has been a pretty good podcast here. We're so excited to have you on,
Yeah, it's
Tom. Do
been
you want to leave
fantastic.
anything else?
Honestly, no, I think like you said, that's about it. I learned a lot about Fort City. I had the first experience too on dropped on Douillard because of my girlfriend. Then that's how I met. I think you for the first time just in passing. I saw you on your skateboard zooming around all over the place.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and it's really interesting and inspiring. I think to myself and just other people too, just to be able to make yourself out of nothing and follow your passions and just stay persistent and make it work. So really appreciate you hopping on, and then uh, we're gonna make sure we put your Instagram handle here in the description as well, so people can find you. I'm sure they can find you if they wanted to because you're everywhere. But find Mike on Instagram there with Michael Difazio _
Any
and
last
yeah, any
things you want to
closing
share about?
words?
Yeah.
Any
Ah,
advice you want to give, like a piece of advice to someone who's trying to be an entrepreneur or kind of get into real estate, just starting from square one?
sure. It's gonna be hard. It is not gonna get easier, but don't wish that it was easier. Just keep getting better, and eventually you'll be able to overcome these things. Because, dude, there is nothing good is easy, or else everybody else would have it. So don't. If you want to be something great, just go for the hardest thing possible and conquer it. Like, and just kind of shut your brain off, shut your mind off to what other people are saying, and just be willing to suck for a little bit because that's something. This I'm saying this specifically because of this year, man. When you said like it was like, oh, just a flip of the switch, I went from woodworker to coach. That is what it looked like on the outside, but on the inside, and even at home, dude,
Hmm.
it was a brutal year for me mentally and emotionally. So, you know, I was willing to suck at it and go pull myself back from being like this rock star in this space to pull myself back and to start something in a totally new direction. So just be willing to suck and do the thing that's hard because I'm not really worried about what this is going to look like in a year. I already know that in 5 years what I'm building right now is going to be insane, but right now I'm not concerned with it being incredibly profitable or like amazing.
No, you're basically, I can see the determination. You're firing on on all cylinders right now, which is cool to see. And like I said, I've known you for quite a bit. We've chatted here and there. I did not even know that it was an interesting year for you. I think we all kind of go through our little. I had that actually in 2022 when the market dropped. I went
Yeah.
from basically being on a bunch of podcasts because Windsor was the real estate going. Everyone wanted to invest here. I was flipping houses. I was making money, not even having to lift a finger. And then basically both my businesses, because if no one's buying real estate, no one's going to buy my flips.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
secondly, if no one's buying real estate, how am I supposed to make money when those are my two biggest things? And I was having it was life changing. And what happens like overnight, my business just I just lit a fire and is poof gone, right? And you don't talk about that. Who do you talk to about it, right? So
It's
just for
tough.
you to say, and there's a lot of people, especially with Windsor, with changing of jobs and the way the environment is. A lot of us grew up thinking that a house was super obtainable. Our parents basically just got a job at Ford's, Chrysler's, GM, which my dad was a GM guy. He
Hmm.
basically lost his job. He had to go up north so he could continue to get a pension and to be able to retire and provide a life for us, right? So I think there's a lot of people that want to hear this kind of story because we have so many of these investors hopping on these podcasts that they're from Toronto, and everyone sees, oh, if you're from Toronto, you must have money, right? So to have
Right.
someone local, that was working in Nona's garage in the west end of Windsor and basically took over a whole neighborhood,
That's the
and
inspiring stuff.
it's not like it was a 30-40 year thing. You're basically less than 15 years,
10
right? From
years. 10
start to
years.
finish, 10 years, right? So this is something that like it's a local person. It's informative. And obviously we could sit there and probably be another 2-3 hours on exactly how you did it all, but there's a lot of opportunity. Sure, the properties are not 75 or 115,000 or 115 each, right? But the issue now is, like you said, there's opportunity. If you become the guy or you become the face, you could put yourself and be in a position where you get offers in and do creative financing. Creative financing hasn't changed. It's still there. You still don't
So
need money to buy real estate. If you're smart about how you do it, there's a lot of opportunity for any investor.
so fun. I honestly think it's so fun. Like creating a win-win in any situation is fun, but when you create a win-win in real estate, it's like win-win and everybody got paid, and it's just like awesome all around. Like I mean, obviously it's not always with all cases, but like you have the ability to create it. It's really
Yep.
fun, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty, and anyone can do it too. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of right place, right time, being persistent like you did, and then being known to kind of make the deals happen and just bootstrap it. I love it. It's
Bootstrap.
honestly it's inspiring, it's motivating too, because just the fire that you have lit underneath your ass right now, it kind of like people can feel the energy, and I'm feeling it right now this evening. So, Michael, I
That's
appreciate for hopping on, man, and
Absolutely.
yeah, this
And
has been
thank you for the
fantastic.
exclusive of letting us know about your new project. I know that you
Yes.
are trying to avoid doing it, but we appreciate that having the exclusive on that. So hopefully, I mean, we don't get a ton of viewers right now at least, but hopefully some people will reach out to you and inquire more. But once again, thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. I had a blast. It was a good time.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Until next time.
All right. Take care, everyone. And if you want to find Michael, find him on Instagram. Then you can find our socials as well on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram as well. So, all right. Good night, everyone. Take care.